All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're going to discover exactly why transitioning to IPv6 requires you to completely unlearn your old security habits. For decades, we've built our network security on a foundation of IPv4 assumptions. But as we're going to see, treating IPv6 like it's just some larger address space bolted onto your existing network, it's incredibly dangerous.
So the crucial point we need to make right off the bat is that applying IPv4 logic to an IPv6 network creates these massive, totally invisible security holes. We've all developed this sort of muscle memory around how devices communicate, right? It's kind of like checking under the bed for monsters that don't exist anymore while completely ignoring the new ones casually walking through the front door. IPv6 fundamentally changes the rules of the game, and if you don't actively change your defensive posture to match it, your network is likely exposed in ways your current monitoring tools can't even see.
Section 1. Unlearning old IPv4 assumptions. The paradigm shift. We really have to start by shattering our reliance on those old IPv4 safety blankets.
And here's our very first problem. Back in the IPv4 world, you typically had one clean, easily trackable address per interface. Something like 192.168.0.10. But in IPv6, multiple simultaneous addresses are completely normal. Actually, it's expected. On a single interface, you're going to see a link local address starting with FE80, a global unicast address, and temporary privacy addresses all stacked together at the exact same time. If your security monitoring or your firewall rules are built around tracking a single IP per host, they are just going to silently break.
And this lack of a single identifier builds a pretty dangerous new reality. Think about it. With IPv4, Network Address Translation, or NAT, essentially acted as a default, albeit accidental, safety net. It hid your internal devices from the outside world. But IPv6 largely eliminates NAT. What this means is that every single device on your network is potentially globally routable right out of the box. Suddenly, your perimeter is literally everywhere.
Which brings us to Section 2, Global Routing and Firewall Risks, Redefining the Perimeter. Now that our devices are globally routable, we have to totally rethink how our firewalls handle core protocol traffic.
You know how blocking all ICMP traffic used to be this massive badge of honor for IPv4 security admins? Yeah, well, in IPv6, that exact same badge of honor will completely break your network. You absolutely must explicitly permit specific ICMPv6 types on all your firewalls. For example, if you block Type 2, Path MTU discovery fails, and your large file transfers or HTTPS sessions, they'll just mysteriously stall out. If you block types 133 through 137, your devices won't even be able to find routers or resolve neighbor addresses, because the fundamental protocol that runs the network relies entirely on these messages. Blocking them breaks your network, and it does it silently.
All right, Section 3, Multicast and NDP Vulnerabilities. The local link danger. Let's shift our focus from the edge firewall down to the local network segment.
In IPv6, the traditional broadcast traffic is gone, replaced by multicast, and old-school ARP has been replaced by the Neighbor Discovery Protocol, or NDP. This step-by-step shows a built-in process called Duplicate Address Detection, or DAD. Before using any address, an IPv6 host basically shouts out to the local link, "Hey, is anyone else using this?" Here's the huge security risk. A rogue device on your segment can maliciously respond to these solicitations. If an attacker intercepts Step 2 and constantly replies that the address is taken, your legitimate machines will mark their addresses as DAD failed and lock themselves off the network entirely. It's a silent, extremely effective denial of service.
Now there's a really stark warning hidden in your basic switch configuration. NDP relies heavily on multicast, right? Well, if your network switches do not have MLD snooping explicitly configured, they don't actually know how to intelligently route that multicast traffic. So what do they do instead? They just blindly flood it to every single port. This doesn't just degrade your performance, it effectively hands an attacker your entire local network topography on a silver platter.
Moving on to Section 4, Bypassing Firewalls with Fragments, the middle box problem. We're going to escalate now to highly specific, counterintuitive ways attackers manipulate IPv6 packets to sneak right past your perimeter.
Okay, let's talk about a totally obscure but absolutely critical term: atomic fragments. Defined as a major security risk in RFC 8021, these are IPv6 packets that include a fragment header, which tells the router the packet is broken up. But here's the catch: they don't actually contain any fragmentation. Attackers use these empty, nonsensical headers to confuse your firewalls. The firewall gets entirely tripped up processing the unexpected header, and it just lets the malicious payload slip right through to your internal network.
So what's the fix? Well, it's actually pretty direct. You must configure your firewall to actively drop atomic fragment packets. No exceptions. Furthermore, you need to constantly monitor for unknown extension headers. A lot of middle boxes, like your firewalls, load balancers, or WAN optimizers, they will just silently drop packets if they see an extension header they don't recognize. And that causes mysterious connectivity failures that are a nightmare to troubleshoot. You've got to audit exactly how your middle boxes handle this specific packet architecture.
Before we wrap this up, I've got to ask you about a risk that might literally be happening on your remote workforce's machines right at this very second, completely unnoticed by your IT department.
Section 5. Hidden VPN split tunnel leaks. The dual stack blind spot. If your organization is running a dual stack environment, meaning you support both IPv4 and IPv6, and you haven't explicitly configured your VPN for IPv6, well, your IPv4 muscle memory has definitely left you exposed.
Since IPv6 does its own thing completely independent of IPv4, an unconfigured VPN is going to fail in one of two really frustrating ways. Over on the left, we've got the absolute worst-case scenario, a split tunnel leak. The IPv4 traffic goes securely through your corporate VPN, just like you'd expect, but the IPv6 traffic just bypasses the VPN entirely. It routes straight out over the user's local, unsecured home network, exposing their real IP. On the right, you see what happens when the client prevents IPv6 entirely but doesn't actually tunnel it. It causes massive, random-seeming website timeouts for the user whenever a site prefers an IPv6 connection.
And guys, this is not just a theoretical issue. This is actively impacting major, widely used software right now. If you're running OpenVPN without explicitly setting that ton IPv6 flag and pushing the route, or if you're using older versions of Cisco AnyConnect, or honestly a lot of legacy IPsec clients, your traffic is more than likely leaking as we speak.
So, the big takeaway here? Ignoring IPv6 on your VPN is just not an option anymore. You basically have two choices. Option A, you must explicitly configure your VPN to route all IPv6 traffic through the tunnel by pushing that route. Or, option B, if you just don't want to support IPv6 remotely yet, you must explicitly and forcibly disable IPv6 on the client machines. You've got to pick one, because leaving it unconfigured is just a massive security blind spot.
I really hope this explainer showed you exactly why treating IPv6 just like a simple upgrade to IPv4 is so incredibly dangerous. From globally routable devices and complex ICMP rules to DAD spoofing and hidden VPN leaks, securing a dual-stack environment takes true intention and a brand new rulebook. So grab these specific tools, go audit your network, and ask yourself, are you still relying on IPv4 assumptions in an IPv6 world?